All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming in on a nice July day. You do get a choice. We do believe in freedom of the press here. All right. I will start off with a statement on the situation in Niger. The Secretary General is following closely the situation in Niger. He condemns in the strongest terms any efforts to seize power by force and to undermine democratic governance, peace, and stability in Niger. The Secretary General calls on all actors involved to exercise restraint and ensure the protection of constitutional order. The United Nations stands by the government and people of Niger. And if you allow me, I'll read it in French as well. Le secrétaire général suit de près la situation au Niger. Il condamne avec la plus grande fermeté toute tentative de prise de pouvoir par la force et à l'atteinte à la gouvernance démocratique, la paix et la stabilité au Niger. Le secrétaire général appelle à tous les acteurs concernés de faire preuve de retenue et d'assurer la protection de l'ordre constitutionnel. Les Nations unies sont aux côtés du gouvernement et du peuple du Niger. This morning, the Security Council held a meeting on threats to international peace and security. Briefing council members was Nihal Saad, the director of the UN Alliance of Civilizations, and she said that the cathedral damaged in Odesa on Sunday was not the only religious site damaged throughout this war. According to a preliminary assessment undertaken by our colleagues in Paris at UNESCO, 116 religious sites have been damaged since February 24th. Ms. Saad stressed that this February 24, 2022. Ms. Saad stressed that religious sites should be a place of worship, not a place of war. Also, later in the morning, the Council held a meeting on the maintenance of peace and security in Ukraine. Assistant Secretary General for the Middle East, Asia, and Pacific, Khaled Kyari, told Council members that in the wake of Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Initiative, these latest attacks signaled a calamitous turn for the Ukrainian and the world. Mr. Kyari pointed out that port cities that allow for the export of grain, such as Odesa, Reni, Ismail, are lifelines for many, and now they are the latest casualties in this senseless, brutal war. All those remarks are shared with you. And a programming note, tomorrow at about 9:30 a.m., the Secretary General of these United Nations will be the Security Council stakeout. He will deliver remarks on climate, but he will also be taking some questions for you. And attendance is mandatory, Mr. Bass. Okay. And at the closing of the UN Food Systems Summit +2 stock-taking moment, the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, launched the Secretary General's call to action for accelerated food systems transformation. In her speech, Ms. Mohammed highlighted 6 concrete objectives for the call to action for all actors to step up and commit to make food systems work for people and planet alike. These will support the broader push to get the Sustainable Development Goals back on track. Earlier today, the Deputy Secretary General spoke at an event on the use of space technology for transforming agri-food systems, saying that the profound changes underway in outer space, especially our growing access and use of low Earth orbit, can become game changers for the 2030 agenda. In this challenging global context, from conflict to COVID to climate crisis, the emergence of new tools, and particularly digital agriculture, is most welcome, she added. Later, she spoke at the UN Food Systems Summit stock-taking, all this happening in Rome, where she warned that as we approach the midpoint of the 2030 agenda, the SDGs are in deep trouble with hunger levels not seen since 2005. If current trends continue by 2030, 575 million people will still live in extreme poverty, and nearly 670 million men, women, and children will suffer from hunger. Transforming our food system, she said, is one key to getting the world back on track and reversing these worrying trends. She added that the joint SDG Fund's window on food systems is being launched today, is our efforts to tackle the support needed to address this lack of funding and turn the situation around. Her remarks were shared. Quick humanitarian update on Syria and border crossings. The Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and the World Health Organization carried out 2 regular missions from southern Turkey to northwest Syria today through the Bab al-Salam crossing. In Azaz, which is northwest of Aleppo, OCHA staff visited a pediatric hospital supported by the Syria Cross-Border Humanitarian Fund. For its part, WHO conducted monitoring and provided technical support at several health facilities. The UN has completed nearly 170 cross-border missions to northwest Syria since the earthquakes in February. In the coming days, additional staff missions and truck movements are planned through Bab al-Salam and Al-Ray crossings. Our peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic, MINUSCA, announced today a plan to dedicate about $3 million to finance quick impact projects, and about 90 of them. That'll be in the coming year and intended to support reconciliation, political process, and the peace process, and improve security to help restore state authority. In previous years, these kinds of projects resulted in the rehabilitation of bridges, constructions of schools, police stations, training centers, community, radio networks, and public infrastructure, public administration infrastructure. And on South Sudan, the humanitarian community is calling for urgent funding for transportation of people fleeing from Sudan to South Sudan. Many of those fleeing are vulnerable with no financial resources to continue their journey inside the country. The vast majority of South Sudanese returnees. Until now, South Sudanese authorities and the humanitarian community have been able to provide transportation assistance so that people can reach their final destination by river, by air, or by road. However, without new funding, humanitarian agencies will be forced to halt transportation in 2 weeks' time. With an onward transportation available, more people will become stranded in and around the border towns where humanitarian services are already overstretched. We need $26.4 million to continue providing this service until the end of the year. And a quick note for Togo, where our team there is reinforcing national efforts to counter violent extremist attacks in the northern regions. Over the past 4 months, WFP distributed essential food supplies to include corn, beans, and salt and vegetable oil and enriched flour, benefiting 52,000 people, especially children in impacted areas. UNFPA, for its part, provided 3,000 hygiene kits to women, including adolescents, many of whom were displaced. These kits include dental hygiene and towels, among other items. For its part, WHO distributed healthcare kits, while UNICEF provided water, hygiene, and sanitation access, installing latrines in health facilities and school. Over 9,000 displaced students received school kits, and 2,000 with severe acute malnutrition were treated. And UNDP is empowering elected bodies to promote dialogue, mechanism, and social cohesion, while the UN Refugee Agency is assisting the registration of 18,000 asylum seekers due to the rising number of refugees from Burkina Faso. Lastly, and importantly, today the Secretary General is appointing Tatiana Molchean of Moldova as the next Executive Director of the UN Economic Commission for Europe. She will succeed Olga Algerova of Slovakia, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for her commitment and dedicated service to the United Nations. Ms. Molchean brings to the position 20 years of experience in the public sector with extensive international cooperation and development experience, in-depth knowledge and expertise across the entire ECE membership. James, and then Ibtisam.
Niger. Tell us more about what the UN has there. Who's in charge with the UN? Who they managed to make contact with?
We have about 1,500 UN staff, about 350 internationals, 21 various agencies. At this point, all UN staff is safe, though we've had to suspend our operations, you know. Niger, like many other countries in the Sahel, is where we conduct a lot of humanitarian and development operations.
Is there a resident coordinator?
Yeah, there is a resident coordinator. She was currently out of the country on leave, but there's an acting resident coordinator who's meeting with staff. We are also trying to make contacts here from headquarters, and I will keep you posted on that.
A couple of quick questions on Ukraine. Number one, I thought Denise Brown was briefing the Security Council today. That's why we couldn't have a briefing yesterday with her. She didn't brief, did she?
Yeah, my understanding, there was some technical issues given where she was and traveling in Ukraine.
it seems quite important that someone hears from her soon. She was
No,
going to do a
we
press
would
brief-
like. I mean, we're trying to get her and get her back.
And on that issue, because I know she went to this particular building, the Transfiguration Cathedral in Odesa that was hit. Now the claim is coming from the Russian deputy ambassador that was hit by Ukraine, not by Russia. What's the UN's view on that? The UN condemned Russia the other day.
I don't think
statement.
we're not. I'm not aware of us changing our position in terms of what was already said. Ibtisam and Al-Ghuridi.
So UN experts, special rapporteurs and others issued a statement today about the situation in Palestine and Israel, and among others they say that the international community must take steps to prevent Israel's annexation of occupied Palestinian territory or risk being seen as accepting the Israeli government's systematic violation of international law. Do you have a comment on that? And then what is the UN actually doing in order not to give, as your special representative, in order not to give this impression that you are actually accepting?
Well, I don't
the
think.
de facto
Listen, I have no comment on what the special rapporteur said. As you know, they're independent. They're free to say what they wish. From our part, I think our position on potential annexation, on the growth of illegal settlements has been very clear. The position is unchanged and unwavering. We will continue to pass that message along, both publicly and privately, in our discussions with Israeli officials.
Still on Israel and Palestine, but on a different issue. So both government and opposition voted in favor of a law aimed to prevent Palestinian citizens of Israel from living in a long list of towns and villages. This law allows, but in vague terms, housing segregation against Palestinian citizens, which means that any town up to 700 households can now prevent those who are unsuitable in cultural or social terms to move in. Do you have any comments on that?
To be honest, I had not seen that report before coming in. I will get you some language on that.
Just last one on Syria. Any updates on the negotiation between OCHA and cross-border?
I think our position and our requirements, in a sense, and I'm a little loath to use that word, but our position on the need for us to be able to operate in northwest Syria and throughout Syria along the same lines as we operate anywhere are unchanged. Our view has been made known to the Syrian government. As soon as there's some positive news to share, I will share it with you. Edie?
Thanks, Steph. A follow-up on Niger. The new special envoy for West Africa, UNOWAS, was here yesterday. Is he still here? Is he involved in?
He's still here. As I came downstairs, he was about to meet the Secretary General. So if I have an update on his what his activities are, I will let you know. I will ask all of that.
Yeah. Do you know whether he's been in touch with anybody there?
I cannot answer for that at this point.
Okay, so you're going to let us?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Also, today, the anniversary of the armistice between the two Koreas is basically here. Does the Secretary General have any comment to both the North and the South Koreans?
Well, I think, as we've been saying, we would like to see a resumption of the diplomatic dialogue as an effort to lower tensions on the Korean peninsula and lead ultimately to the verifiable denuclearization of the peninsula. Ms. Fasulo, and now go to Alan.
Thank you, Steph. Regarding North Korea, can you just clarify once and for all the situation with the UN command regarding North Korea? You know, there's been reporting about the UN holding talks, and we know it's a U.S.-led command. Anyway, if you could just make some total sense of it?
Well, that's a tall order if you want. If you ask me and you want me to make total sense of something. This was created during the Korean conflict by the Security Council. The resolutions are clear. It is, however, it has no operational link, no administrative link, no financial link with the United Nations. As far as my understanding, even when it was created, it was funded and paid for by the United States. So it is a relic of that time. I assume it would be up for the Security Council to make the necessary changes. And I agree, it does create a little bit of confusion every once in a while. Alan.
Sorry, thank you, Stéphane. Today, the Security Council discussed the oppression of the Orthodox Church in Ukraine. So my question is the SG touching this issue in his context with the Ukrainian authorities? And in general, is he concerned about that?
Well, I mean, I would refer to what the comments made by Nihal Saad today on behalf of the Secretariat regarding the topic. We believe everywhere in the world people should have a right to worship freely.
Yeah, but is he speaking about that topic with the Ukrainian authorities?
I have no more information to share on the topic of his discussions that I've had in the past. Mr. Bays.
Different part of the world. Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
Cambodia's prime minister was recently re-elected in an election where the opposition were not allowed to stand. Mm-hmm. He now says he's going to hand over power to his son, who wasn't elected by anyone. Is the Secretary-General concerned?
I think we have expressed our concern in the past, and that position stands. Okay,
DPRK. Further question on that. The Russian defense.
And I would also refer you to the statement made by Volker Turk on the Cambodia issue.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. DPRK, the Russian defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, is in North Korea. Apparently there's a Chinese delegation there as well. The Secretary-General repeatedly expresses his concern about the missiles and projectiles and everything else coming from North Korea. What would he hope could be achieved if two permanent members of the Security Council are there?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the I don't know what the topic of the discussion. We very much hope that any member state that is able to have direct contact with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea would pass along the messages that would lead to, as I said to Edie, a lowering in tension and ultimately a resumption of diplomatic talks and denuclearization of the peninsula.
Okay. Final one from me, the sort of tone of things in the Security Council. You had a procedural vote today, very scrappy procedural vote. You had two rival meetings on Ukraine. You've had the Russian Deputy Ambassador condemning the way the UK presidency has been conducted. Is the Secretary-General concerned that there is a breakdown in the way things are getting done in the Security Council? That there's a breakdown in the normal relations between these. I'm not talking about the policy areas. I'm just talking about the tone of things. Is that concerning?
The council is the master of its own business. They will conduct the business as they wish. Has the Secretary General expressed concern at the fault lines, the growing tensions between some members of the council, especially the permanent members level? Yes, and as we've always said, the more united the council is, the more, in a way, the more authority it gives the Secretary General to do his own work, and the reverse is what it is. Okay, thank you all. Remember 9:30 tomorrow, and then we'll also have a briefing, and we hope to have WF. Oh, that's Friday. Okay, forget it. One day at a time. Anyway, see you tomorrow.